Advisory Advantage. Your monthly podcast to cut through the noise and unpack real advisory. Deep dive into what's actually working for accountants to move beyond the traditional and into true strategic impact. No fluff, no jargon, just practical, actionable strategies you can use right now.
Welcome to the Advisory Advantage podcast, brought to you by Leaders in Business and AccountantsDaily. Joining me today will be a special guest, Noel Tiufino from My Accounts, who's stepping in to guide me and help me and filling some big shoes of Imogen Wilson, who has gone to take on some new things over in our homeland in Western Australia. Today, we'll be talking about the AI-enabled strategic advisor. And helping me do that is Noel. Welcome to the set,
Mate,
Noel.
thank you so much. Good to be here.
So good for you to be here.
Geez,
Now,
big shoes to fill. Imogen Wilson, what a pro.
she's a good fun. She's lighthearted, and that's why I thought of you. I thought you could absolutely take this on. And what I'd love to do for our listeners, Noel, is introduce you a little bit and then throw the reins over to
sure.
you. So Noel and I go back a long way, don't we?
Long way.
10 plus years?
Yeah, I'd say we're closer to 15 now, I reckon.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
And, scouring the events around the world, really. We're going to Bali,
Yeah.
Northern Queensland for the Nixon conferences and bonding, I suppose.
It was the Bintangs.
Bintangs. Lots of fun. You said that's great. Some great photos I saw, some memories the other day. But some fantastic memories. And what I've seen you grow a business. My Accounts, from a little business to quite a great business now. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've had the absolute pleasure of being able to be at My Accounts for a number of years now. I think the thing that I love most about it is having been able to, you touched on it, is grow this community of accountants. Part of our, at My Accounts, we focus on bookkeeping, but part of our, go-to-market has been via the accountants channel. So just over the last 10 to 15 years, just growing that network of accountants. And you've just found, and I know the same as you, that the community of accountants is like a really beautiful community. We actually really support each other. Yeah. And that's easily, one of the most rewarding parts of the job. So, having these relationships for so long, as corny as it sounded, like we almost feel like family. Like you came over for dinner the other night, and it's just normal. You know what I mean?
The pork sissy.
Yeah, crispy pork sissy.
Unbelievable.
Thank you.
Bit of food. It was the tastiest thing I've ever had. But no, you're right. The community is strong. Yeah. And we've known each other and we know many others, and you've been really out in the community for such a long time. So I thought it was fitting that you could join us, not only because you have such history, but you are not an accountant.
Yep.
Okay, so you can bring both the perspective from an accounting perspective, but I know you're a real orator, if that's the right word. You're great with your words.
Is that different than like full forward? Is that?
Yeah. Mate, you can definitely mix it with me in terms of trying to help me explain the human language. You're a writer. You like to do those sorts of things too. So I think you'll be great to join this discussion.
I'm honoured to be here.
Now, I want to throw it over to you because I think you'll help guide me. So I've got some idea of what we're doing. But today we are talking about the AI-enabled strategic advisor.
Isn't it a very prevalent topic, isn't it?
It is. And given that this is the advisory advantage, trying to mix the AI world that we live in now, and everyone's talking about it, with the human side of things.
Yeah, for sure. Data or data, as people would argue to pronounce it, it's everywhere, and it's just the topic, isn't it? And do you scroll LinkedIn much?
Always.
Yeah, it's just every second post. Hey, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. A lot of discourse there, but what I'm maybe not struggling with, but something that I find very interesting is the correlation between data and insights.
Yeah.
And where does one end? Where does the other begin? Did you have some thoughts there?
Yeah, I think it's important because one of the things that I see is, you're right, is AI is everywhere, right? We're seeing it in every seminar, every conference, every podcast. And I think it's about what do we do with it. For me, it's about what I am trying to make sense of is what's this opportunity that we have with it in terms of the advisory world that I live in. And I think about like the information world that we live in. There's so much information now. It's almost impossible to find out what's right, what's wrong, what's relevant.
Yeah.
There's information overload and overwhelm, and you don't really know what to do with it.
Yeah.
So it's about trying to analyze and interpret what is relevant for me and how do I actually use that. Over the years in the accounting industry, we've been collecting data information for years. We back in the day we had these sheds full of accountants. Sheds like literally these what are they called? These
like the filing cabinets,
the
the
filing
metal ones.
cabinets,
Yeah,
yes. Literally.
Yeah.
Before that all got scanned and put online, but we've got files and files and years of information. But who actually goes back and looks at it?
No.
It's all in someone's head. All the information we collected about personal details, business details, client meetings, all of the original documents, source documents. There's just so much information, and it really does rely on someone to be able to think through what this all means, and it's almost impossible to do. So therefore, you don't really do it.
Yeah, I think one of the stalwarts of leadership and management, Peter Drucker, he's the one that said something like, you can only manage what you measure.
Yeah.
And which is, I think, they're very interesting about the whole data and insight. So, like, what are we measuring, and therefore, what are we managing? And do you think amongst the advisors that you're speaking to, that they have that nailed? Like, are they managing and or measuring the right things?
Yeah, I think so. I think from a numbers perspective, it's a bit easier. But that's, to me, is what the opportunity is. Like, we've only been able to look at the numbers because that's what in the accounting industry we've been collecting and forming views on. So we do have that, I suppose, that history that we present in terms of the numbers, financial statements, profit and loss, and that becomes something we can look at to measure some sort of success. But what sits behind that is a whole lot of information that isn't really understood or interpreted. And I think in the past, that's been really, difficult to collect because how do you actually interpret it all? I liken it to this. I think about this a lot, a bit of a story that not a story, but it's something I think about in terms of I go to the doctors. I'm 46 years old. I've been going to the doctors. I try to do an annual checkup every year in my heart and all my bloods and make sure I'm doing the right thing.
How's it going?
Well, the reason I said it because I think it's okay, but I'm due. Okay. I'm due again. And I normally post something, I think men's health is really important.
I care about you, yeah.
Oh, thank you, mate. It means a lot. But it's something that I think about often because it's like I go and do these tests. I go and get these results. I've been going there consistently now to the same doctor's surgery for 46 years. And I think about who's actually looking over this. Who's looking at my file and looking over this and trying to form patterns and seeing, is this guy on his way to some sort of chronic disease or unhealth or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't really know until it happens. And having the ability to look over and analyze data and interpret it and then be able to understand it, I think that's what's missing. And I think that's what presents as this fantastic opportunity in, let's relate it back to the accounting world now, all of the data we've collected in the past, all of the information we have about the client and the file and the financials and the non-financial information, to be able to take all that overwhelm and interpret it and give it back in a way that's simple and makes sense. Now we've turned data into some insights. We're starting to use that to be able to give some value. And I think that's what the opportunity lives right now for that an AI-enabled strategic advisor.
And to your analogy, like the doctor analogy there, or it's not really an analogy, lived experience. Do you think there's a product that you would almost be like, I would pay for that, from like a medical point of view, where so it's almost like it's real base, and I don't want to get into like the Meisner compliance issue, but like the whole they're just checking for showstoppers, for lack of a better word, and that's almost the extent of what they'll give you. You're not going to die right now.
That's right.
So off you go. And I'm like, I'll pay a little bit extra. Can you give me a report? Like, is there anything that I could improve on? Like, do I need to eat more protein? Like, is there maybe a correlation with that in the advisor world or something?
100%, because there's patterns.
Yeah.
What we are is a walking pattern of something that's happened before. The pattern, my profile in my medical background is the same as a business. They have patterns. And when you see them over and over again as the professional, you see that there is similarities and differences between many different types. And that's the opportunity. That's what we want to pay for. I want someone who knows and seen hundreds of different businesses or hundreds of different patients to tell me something that I don't know. And that's now possible because we have this machine. We have this machine being able to analyze a whole lot of complex information and categorize it for us in a way that can make sense to give insights. And so I think people will pay for that.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple that off the top of my head that already exist where they are starting to sell those sorts of like long scans and like lots
enabled,
of data.
I think. You seen that?
Everlab,
that's the one.
Yeah, and LMI, there's the Longevity Institute in Double Bay, and like there's a couple of things. So it is interesting, and I think to your point about machines, I'm not sure if we're going to cross this frontier now in this discussion, but is a machine, is that AI? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah. This big ability to interpret complexity and put it into simplicity.
So what is AI's role then? So we talk about it, and it's analyzing data, say.
Yes.
But then what about the human interaction as part of all that?
Yeah, so I think there's a few pieces to it. And I'll give some live examples, because when I started doing strategic planning for my clients, again, started off as a curious engagement with my client, literally as I sit here with you now on a pen and a paper, was just asking questions, as you do too, right? Yeah. What do you love doing? Where do you want to go with your business? Tell me more about your business. Tell me more.
It's not just straight P&L, is it?
It's not just straight P&L. This has nothing to do with P&L, right?
Yeah.
It was just asking questions all about clients, all about your branding. Tell me more about that. And I just would literally ask questions over a whole day and just grab as much of the information I can and writing that down. This is 15 years ago. And then I'd have to take that information and then I'd have to turn it into what would be my interpretation of what that was.
Is that pretty manual?
Yeah, very manual. Bias. I'd have a bias. I mean, I've got a bias. Maybe I tuned in and tuned out along the way.
Didn't like the bloke.
Didn't like the bloke. Possibly.
Yeah.
But again, it's up to my interpretation. I suppose that's the experience that I needed to have to be able to deliver that. So then now I've got all this information. I've summarised in what I think is valuable, and I've played that back. Now that was so much more challenging then to what it is now. Now we're able to be a bit smarter about it. We can actually go and collect information beforehand, right? So analyze the information, send out some questionnaires to the client to get them to do some pre-work and thinking about what's going on, capturing some more insight, information before we then can start to analyze it. And we believe if you ask the right questions in what you're trying to diagnose, the prompting is the real power.
Yep.
And if you can do that, you're now starting to form a bit of a view as to what's going on. You've got a bit of a range. You can throw out some further questionnaires. So when we do our strategic advisory with firms, we throw out a SWOT analysis, for example, unanimously to the team and make it so they, what's it called when you, I've lost my train of thought. When you, anonymous is what I'm looking for. It's an anonymous SWOT. Okay. And that means what we're doing is throwing the net further and wider, that we can capture more information to be able to understand what's going on. Now we can grab all that and put it into our program, which has been designed to interpret this information and then categorize it. So now I've got all of this data coming in, capturing it all, analyzing what it means, and interpreting it as to what this means, and puts it into categories so then we can understand it in a real simple glimpse. Yeah.
So that interpretation piece, is that part of the machine, as it were, or is that where the advisor steps in? Or
yeah, it's a good question, because I mean many of us have experienced some sort of ChatGPT or learning. Everyone's what's your go-to?
For business, I use my Copilot Business, and then outside of business for like recipes and such, I use Grok. Twitter's or Musk's one,
So they all have their own ability, right? What we've done is we've programmed ours with our own interpretation, our own strategic framework, our own analysis to be able to give us the context on what we believe is the right way to be able to understand and interpret a business. Now, what that does is gives us the ability to understand a business in the way we view it, okay? And then that means that what that does from an efficiency perspective, I can get a glimpse of a business after we've captured all that information, and I can form a view pretty quickly where I think it's at.
Yep.
Okay. Without all of the information there, it's just summarised and categorised in a really simple way, which is really efficient from a time perspective, but empowering for me as a leader to be able to form a view in a quick snapshot.
So then after, say, interpretation, what would be the next step? Is, I guess, it would be having a conversation with the client, or what would you say as part of the program, or what is most valuable from the client from that perspective? I assume it would be a conversation.
Yeah, look, it's a good point, right? Yeah. Because there was a point in time when we think that we've got really good analytical tools in the business, and we thought once we capture that and we capture the objective, you've got to. What's really important in these engagements, there's got to be a goal. You've got to be, what is the purpose of doing this? Okay, you can't just capture information, doesn't mean anything. So interpreting what the outcome that the client wants is really important, and then applying the analysis or diagnosis. Now, there was a point in time where I'm like, I can see what needs to happen here without even speaking to the client.
Okay.
So I could easily just go and form my view, give a recommendation, and turn this into a machine, and off you go.
Yeah.
But the reality is, that's not enough. Okay, there's a whole piece missing here, which is where the crossover comes from the AI and the data collection, and the human strategic advisor.
Does better data or like better curated analysis equal a better conversation?
Most definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, because what it gives you it gives you insights for yourself to be able to know which questions. So when you do sit down with the client, okay, the missing piece is that you need to take your client through a journey and validate some of the things that they've interpreted. So if they've filled out a questionnaire basically on their goals, you need to validate them. You need to hear it from them. What does it really mean for you as a client to be able to stretch these goals, and why are they important to you? That emotional gap is really important for us to be able to connect to, right? So so that's one point. And then the analysis side of things, when you have some pre-learning, say, before you go in there, you're able then to form a bit of a prepare. Okay, you meant to go in there. You can go in there with some data, so you can hone in on some of the issues you can already see instead of trying to unearth them in the meeting.
Yeah.
Right. So you're saving a heap of time.
It sounds a lot more strategic.
A lot more strategic, a lot more pointed, and you can start with the problem areas instead of trying to find them.
Yeah, it's almost like going back to the doctor discussion. It's like it would feel nice as a patient if I was going through something to feel like there was a plan, or that it's organized or structured, like, oh, I'm in good care here.
That's
you
right.
know what I mean? Whereas if they're like, which test should I do now? Let's try your bloods.
It feels a little bit like that sometimes.
Yeah.
So this is a really important point of it all, because I think this is what the future of advisory is.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that we have data now, we collect it, and now we can do some work beforehand, inform ourselves in a quick response. Our program, what we've created is a pre-strategy session, which is the human engagement session. The pre-engagement takes an hour max to prepare.
Yeah.
And that's analysing the data that's collected. It's already categorised. Many have been trained to use it. So what you do is you go through and you use the data collected and form and prepare for you by preparing your questions you're going to ask for the meeting. So you're going in there feeling good. I've got a lot of information now. I'm informed about what their goals are and where the gaps are in their business. I'm now going into the strategy session to sit down with the client and start to have an engagement, which feels like I can now be pointed. But a really important point is you don't ever, I believe, don't ever really get the context of it properly until you sit down with the client and get them to share what's really important for them.
So you mentioned the hot word future, and like the future of advisory. Firstly, what's that kind of timeline look like to you? Is that future? Because the rate of change is now seemingly exponential. It's really quick. From the language, like learning language models have kind of evolved so quickly. Like, I think Claude released its, version 4 or something. And I don't know if you've been keeping up, but they said, it like the CEO said, there's about a 20% chance it's already sentient. And it's like, oh, like awesome, But so rate of change really quick. So when you say like future of advisor, what is that? Like, I don't think it's 10, right?
No.
Like, right?
Well, it's happening now.
Yeah.
It's literally happening now. Like, so again, there's so much to get through in terms of an accountant and advisor's day. But literally right now, we're able to grab information from the client, put it into some sort of context, sit down with a client and start to work through that in a really structured way of learning and understanding what it actually means.
Yep.
Okay, so learning and then being able to take that away and recommend that. It's happening now.
Yep.
So it's only going to get better. I think there's a few things that people throw around. Look, my belief is that people still will always want to have a human to understand them and support them
100%.
and lead them in a way. And that's who we are as humans.
Yes.
So it's more about how do we empower the advisor, the strategic advisor, with the right information so then they can have better, stronger discussions to be able to lead that discussion.
Is that looking like, is it almost like AI assisted, AI assisted strategy, or is AI assisted advisory? Is that?
Yeah, it is. It's fair? A combination, because that's what makes it efficient. Okay.
Yeah. But it's not AI. It's not all AI though.
No.
And that's important.
Well, it's a robot, right? You're putting all your information in and Dexter tells you this is the answer.
Yeah.
And again, some people might like that or want that, but I just don't believe it hits the mark. All right. What we're trying to do is break through to what is actually relevant and meaningful. Okay, and if we're not hitting the mark because we haven't been able to understand, the gap here is the emotional state of the person. Okay, and as we need to tap into that. That's the bit we need to lean into as an advisor to really understand the hurt and the pain that they're feeling in the areas that matter most to them. And because we're informed because of the data collection,
Yes.
we can now ask a few more questions about that and learn more about that. And that's important. And then as well, what are they really trying to achieve here? What's the driver? What's the motivation? Words on a page put into a
Like values.
like
values on the wall.
Exactly, values on a wall.
Yeah.
What do they really mean?
Yeah.
And then once you get the substance of that, I think what that does is two things. One is that it makes the direction more clear and the strategy more clear, and it makes the connection with the advisor and the client even more stronger.
Yeah.
Okay, and then trust is built. Okay, because you're now making more informed decisions about them, and then you can go on this beautiful journey of supporting, giving accountability, tracking and measuring, using data again. How are we going on this ongoing arrangement? Because you've formed that trust bond, and you've been able to establish a really clear, meaningful plan.
I'm going to ask a controversial one here, but do you think you could maybe describe or provide some insights on your thoughts as to maybe an AI assisted advisor versus a non-AI assisted advisor with the view to like a 1 to 3 year? Like, how are those businesses progressing, or how
That's
is
a good
those?
question. Yeah, thank you. Good question. So I think the typical example of what we've done forever, right? We use financial statements to form our views, and we will use that as what we believe is the analysis that's been done so far, just limiting to just that. And then we'll give our direction on what we need to do for the business based on those numbers and results. Okay. And that's worked. Like from a financial expert, the accountants are, they know numbers, right? But it's really just one lens. It's really not going too far and too wide of capturing information to give a whole lot of context about the future. So again, being able to move from that to being able to inquire further, being able to use tools, use the resources available to be able to capture more data, going back to the client to be able to get them to share and their future, their world, diagnosing the business, understanding the business performance, the gaps, not just the numbers, all the things that sits behind the numbers, will give us more of a view of what's going on. And to use, again, the AI-enabled platforms that we have and others have to give insights. Yeah. And the insights is what empowers an advisor to be able to say, now I feel I can go in there and ask a few more questions about this to add even more value. And then taking that, this is what we do, is we're recording meetings now. Okay, so you don't even have to let rest on your own experience. We're recording meetings, we're asking questions, we can take the transcripts, we can put it into our platform, has the ability to listen to those conversations and again, provide further insights based on all of the information that's had. So again, we're doubling both of the data analysis and the human side of things to be able to form what feels like a more full view of what's going on in that client's world, and then being able to come up with a recommendation, which again can be supported by the tools of what's there, but also your own human experience and taking the client forward. So I think that's where we're spending more time.
Sound very valuable. Like, like again, Dr. Analogy, I would be like, this is good. Yeah. I feel good paying for this.
It does. Yeah. But it's different.
Tangible outcomes.
It's different to what we've had in the industry, because the industries, we've just done a whole lot of compliance work. There's so much compliance work to be done. Yes. And therefore, it's been really hard to get to this type of work.
To the strategic convo.
To the strategic conversation. Even though for many, there's a desire. I want to do it. I don't have the tools. Yeah. So therefore, there's no point in me jumping in because it's too much for me to learn and I get overwhelmed. But if you've got the tools and the process, it makes it really easy. Our process to run a strategic client engagement is 4 hours. Okay. That is it. 1 hour to do some pre-work, 2 hours for the session, which is the really meaningful grab with the client, building connection, 1 hour to recommend, and that's it. That used to take days and days to do that.
I like the structure.
It's that's really clear, it's really simple, and it's valuable.
Yeah. Well, as we move towards a close, I'm going to ask you for one game changer move.
Alrighty, so we love the game changer move, which is the opportunity for every month we like to give something away. Okay, so again, in the
A game changer.
a game changer, something that's going to move the dial.
Yep.
All right, so we want to be able to make sure that we are, giving you something to go and work with.
Like what's something that Dean Cox would have said to the Swans in the halftime speech that enabled them to kick 12 goals in the third quarter?
Yeah, something that you
Give us a game changer.
just move the dial for me.
Yeah.
Wonder what he said.
Yeah, probably this.
So what we've got, and the anchor of this whole discussion is around our advisor readiness quiz. So that's always available, and that's an example of a data capture, right? So if you guys go and complete this advisor readiness quiz, you will get some insights straight away for yourself. Where am I falling short? Where am I strong in the 7 areas that you need to be able to have that advisor ready? So that's always there. So there's a link that goes out where you can click onto that. And it takes about 2 minutes to do that. But this time as well, we're going to complete another type. So again, we talked about data collection and categorizing and interpreting. We've got a business assessment. Okay, so a business assessment is it's about 30 questions. You can do it for your own business. You can complete the questionnaire. You're going to see the different types of questions about the business to be able to self-diagnose and interpret, which is going to then form a report for you at the end of it to give you some insights as to where are you strong in some of the business areas, where you're feeling where there needs to be some weakness or risk. But again, giving you insights that you didn't have before. So that's what we're going to be offering today as part of
The game changer.
The game changer, the business assessment.
Well, I've written, during your discussion there, I've written a couple of things that I'll say as my wrap, and then I'll hand back over to you. But for me, I've written here, data is everywhere, interpretation is real, structured advisors win.
Pretty good.
Is that good?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. Excellent. I probably aren't as succinct with my words as someone eloquent like yourself. But I suppose at the end of the day, what I feel really passionate about is that, there's a great opportunity, I think, to be able to lean on the power of AI and tools and data and those sorts of things, and being able to lean into some of those can really change the game for you as an advisor, empowering you to be able to go into meetings confident that you're asking the right questions. You're not walking into a room where you've got no idea what's going on. You're informed. You've done some analysis. You're interpreting it. You're now going in really confident that you're touching on the points that matter most, that you're now going to be able to take those insights away once you validate them and have that discussion with the client and turn that into something which is really valuable, which is that strategic roadmap. What are the things that you need to do in your business to be able to move forward and progress? And I think at the end of the day, that's all they're really wanting. They want some direction and they want clarity in a very hard and confusing world of being a business owner.
100%. That's great. Well, thanks for letting me to write in on your show today. I really appreciate that. What a great conversation as well. I agree 100% that with everything you've said. So, all right, looking forward to the next.
Been lots of fun, mate. We'll do it again.
Let's do it.
Thanks, Noel.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.